And BTC on Ethereum is now at 209 million.
All right. Just getting everything up and running here. Hey, we got Adam Baker in the house. Hello, Adam Baker. Good afternoon, sir. Good to have you. Let us know how the sound is, guys. If you have any thoughts on who's loud, who's quiet, anything like that, always here to take that feedback, make it as top quality as possible. Bitcoin is going nuts today.
Yeah, boy.
We're going to pull it up right away because it is the only thing that should matter on a day like today. The king is back. The volatility has awoken, which might make certain people on this stream happy. B-Vol is running. I think
I was lucky enough to be buying that volatility these past few days. I think there were some early signals there that we had mentioned in a previous stream that we'd seen some buying coming in last week.
Yep.
Months of downtrend. It was something definitely to be paying attention there.
So let's pull it up full screen. So this is an FTX, the Bitcoin volatility token. The idea being that it should rally when there is volatility, and it should basically burn off when there is no volatility, which is, as you can see from this chart, what we've had over the last little while. Now, we spotted something last week, and we talked about it on the stream, this big spike in volume. And it could have been the bottom there, which would have been right around 3,200. But Bitcoin didn't really do much. But there was, you can look at this volume here, and it's clear evidence that some, players in the market are betting on volatility. They were a week early, but they weren't wrong. And if they were DCAing their position today, it popped.
Finally.
And let's see, it rallied a good 18%. So let's compare that to the Bitcoin rally.
Ideally, this is a move that's not just going to be, a one-off. We've kind of seen that a few times since this really started trending down in May. So ideally, this is a long-term reversal in this trend, and we're going to move, back up toward even those former highs, 3260 area. I'm not completely sold on doing technical analysis on this one, but for timing, I really like it.
It's a real paper trade for me. As far as just exploring it as an option to gain exposure to volatility. The nice thing is, theoretically, if Bitcoin had dropped, this would have also gone up because you're just betting on volatility, bit vicious price action.
It's a non-directional bet.
Yeah. So hey, if it's obviously about timing, much like options, you're bound by the contract time limits. And in this case, it's no different. If you get in way too early, then, a 2x here is just going to bail you out of your position at break even. So it's really about timing and what you can spot on the Bitcoin chart to maybe suggest that the time is coming near, whether that's a Gann angle, arc, something in the sort of time axis of the chart, or Bollinger Bands. I'm sure accumulation of or a culmination of different tools could get you there.
Yeah, I got a great Bitcoin chart to quickly share here. It's kind of going to give a
pull up a share here on Bitcoin, and I'll make sure that we're buzzing on the back end here. Just shut your download bar there before I put you live. Bottom right.
Should be full screen now. There we go.
Yeah, bottom right, just click that. There you go.
Mm-hmm. Kind of get that newsletter going, We'll talk about that in a bit. But here's Bitcoin, 10.5, the big level we've been watching for quite a while now. It's broken. We're going to be like, this is kind of like the first resistance up here at 10.9, 11,000 block. The thing is, we don't have a lot of price history up here. We didn't spend too much time up here. We've already cleared these levels. So, this is going to be the next level to look at, 11.5, if we can clear this 11,000 resistance here. So besides this resistance at 11,000, 11.5, there's just not a lot up here. There's a huge volume void from 12 to 14. At this point for bulls, we need to maintain this break. So 10.2 level, all the way down to 10,000. This is the level that we need to hold right now on a retest from a Wyckoff. So if you're not already in this, there's a lot of momentum behind this. You can see here on the daily how to this is why I kind of get confirmation of why you don't necessarily want to be in a rush to fade this with a massive short position. We had this long consolidation period and volume breakout as confirmation to the upside. If this had broken out on like really small volume, I'd be inclined to think this was going to get faded. However, this is not the case. This is a very typical textbook breakout pattern here. So if we do get a retest, you're going to be looking to buy this area, 10-2-ish area. If that fails, there's something wrong happening. I would get out of the market.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because I was just in the trading pit actually talking to some guys talking about taking shorts. And I mean, hey, fair enough. If your plan says, you see a setup and it's there and you've vetted that setup and that setup says, 65%, I'm going to bang this out. Cool, go for it. However, I understand the need to simply just want to short it because you're not long.
Yeah.
And you missed the long. The long came in over the weekend. I missed the long. I am long on Bitcoin by exposure, but as far as my futures account goes, you and I, we were on last night. I didn't get into the position I wanted, and the position I could have got into was too high risk for me. And obviously today it blasted a bunch, and could have, would have, should have. But the fact is, that leaves me feeling like, oh, well, where's the next thing I can do? Well, I'll short this, but that's just, it's emotions. It's not logical. I don't clearly have a setup. So I'm glad you brought that up, because today's a day I want to talk about strategies and really kind of checking our emotion at the door, so to speak. Because when you get volatility like this, especially a big shift, right? We are seeing a big shift. I'm going to just flip back to the Bitcoin dominance real quick, because this is a bit of a pivotal day potentially. Now, it doesn't mean it's going to continue and this is our new direction for the next while, but you can see right now the Bitcoin dominance has spiked, right? So it's a pretty gnarly move if you think about it. Like we went down into potentially a third leg down in this risk on window, cut and closed right below this support to at a point where I actually just put out a tweet kind of saying that day, like, oh yeah, this is not a drill, we're going in for leg 3. And in classic Bitcoin fashion, it says like, no you don't. And we rallied hard today, actually right up to this previous range high from the last leg. So I mean, if this is going to turn around and we're going to put in some bullish structure and we're going to start trending up again on Bitcoin dominance, because this is not a trend, right? This is really more of a squeeze.
It's an impulse. Yeah,
it's an impulse. It's a squeeze. This is not a trend shift yet. So it's really like a kind of buy the dip until it's not for altcoins. If you didn't take profits in the last little while, it's going to make it very hard for you to do any dip buying. So again, wanted to talk about strategy today. We're going to get into that a little later on. How are you approaching the market? How am I approaching the market? How are some of the other people I know approaching it? And we're just kind of getting some strategies out there. Today's not a day to change strategies. A lot of guys are like, I'm a holder. And then on days like today, they're like, no, actually, I changed my plan. I'm going to sell everything and start anew. And then, the bounce comes in a few days and they feel the FOMO getting back in their positions. And that's kind of what the market will do to you if you don't have a plan. But we're going to talk about plans and strategies today, because why not? It's a volatile day, and I know for a fact there's a lot of people out here who are feeling the squeeze on their alt bags, and that's not a great feeling, especially when Bitcoin's doing really well. That's the leader of the space. The king is back, just confirmed this fairly sizable bullish pattern. I think everyone knows this one. And arguably you take it down a little this way. However you want to cut it, we just broke out. So I'm with Nick. I think this is the beginning of a larger move, or at the very least, I don't know yet, and I need to wait and find out. So I'm not in a rush or a position to race in here and try to short. I mean, why, looking at the zoomed out chart, why would I short that? That's crazy. I would short down here when it's like bump, 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 fail, retest, go. But this just broke out. So
you're shorting momentum, and historically it's just never a good idea. You want to be on the side of momentum. That's why we often, both in our newsletter, tweets, and what we discuss here, we're talking about waiting for that confirmation of the momentum, because that momentum is going to be what actually carries you through an expansion. You don't,
Yeah.
you're looking to capitalize on the momentum shifts, and that's what these strategies look to spot early on.
Yeah, now we are in a short LZ. We actually just tapped the sweet spot today of the higher time frame drawn from last summer down to the March lows. So if if shorting is your game, if you're bearish on Bitcoin, if you think the recession is coming and the S&P and everything's going to roll over and people won't have money to buy things like this, if that's, I've heard those narratives, if that's you, then sure, we are definitely entering a location where every other day of the week I'm looking for shorts on assets that enter these locations. But there's a lot that needs to come, especially on this. This is a weekly. I mean, it's probably best actually to go into a daily now that we're in this location. I mean, we just got up here, right? And if you're going to get a juicy short, let's look at what that might look like, right? You want to get that high, you want to get that higher high, the fail. And it's usually actually after this fail that I'll then look for the short on the squeeze up and then go.
Mm-hmm.
Right? There's a whole lot of price action that has to come in here before I'm looking at shorts. And frankly, on Bitcoin, I'm just not. But I just mean in general on an asset, there's a lot going on there. So something to keep in mind as we get into today. Now, you've got a juicy little chart up on your screen, which is another thing I want to talk about, F11 for you, bud. And it's basically that we can get exposure to this Bitcoin move because, like we said, you kind of missed the long. I mean, at least the latest one from yesterday or the other day. So what to do now? How to capture some gains or how to be profitable off of this move. And there's a few proxies in the stock market that we want to talk about today.
Yeah, and keeping on the tone of strategies, this is something that people don't really talk. I don't see anybody talking about it in this space, but this kind of takes back to what I've seen strategies done in the mining space, the traditional mining space. Is that if your underlying asset, similar to the Ethereum and Layer 2 protocols type theory, if your underlying asset's doing good, probably the companies that are producing that asset are going to be doing good as well, as they're usually some of the largest holders. So this is actually a company called Bitfarms. It's one of Canada's largest Bitcoin miners. I think they have over 20,000 S19, a mixture of S17s and 19s and stuff, primarily financed through debt from Dominion Ventures. I think $20 million at 10% per year on that. Anyways, the point here is that same thing with Hut 8, another mining company that's listed on the TSX. This ticker is called BITF. The theory is if Bitcoin's going to be doing well, you think, and you've done your research on what some good large mining firms are, they're probably going to be doing pretty good too. So you can already see, since Bitcoin's moved up here, this stock here is up 30% on the day right now. It's been grinding out these lows around 36 cents for almost the better part of a year right now. And these are one of Canada's largest Bitcoin miners, right? It's something that people aren't talking about. So taking some time to do some research into the actual, the infrastructure and the companies that are securing the network, there could be a lot of alpha there because these assets are tradable. Unfortunately, you have to have the traditional brokerage accounts through TSX or who do you use, Colin?
I use Interactive Broker.
IB. Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure if this one's on there, but there's plenty of other mining companies to look for.
I think it is. They list everything from the TSX. So
okay, well,
yeah,
in fact, get exposure to this.
Yeah, my main account actually, I found out today, doesn't even have permissions for the U.S. stocks. My RSP. Okay. So yeah, that's something I was actually looking at today. Now, here's the nice thing, and I'm going to flip back real quick because I've got the same chart up actually, and I mean, look at this thing, right? So if you compare this to Bitcoin, even the chart we had up before, like as far as how much of the move has come and gone, I mean, frankly, on the high time frame, I think Bitcoin's very much just getting started. I've put out things like this before where the perspective I look at Bitcoin is really something like this, where you're just like here, right? I mean, that's how I see Bitcoin. So I'm not going to sit here and say that that you've missed the move. But as far as today goes, and location on the chart, let's have a look and compare it to some of these proxies. Like Nick said, gold does well, gold mining companies do well, vice versa. So we're just looking around today. Again, it's easy to stare at that candle on Bitcoin and say, oh, well, I missed it. And, too bad, I'm just going to go play video games. But there's a lot you can do in the market and finding sort of the next play is what we do in the lab. So here we've got is it Bitfarms? Not iMining. That's another one I picked up today. I'll talk about later. Bitfarms is actually coming up to resistance, like an old one. I wouldn't mind it reclaiming this. Personally, it's so cheap. It's like, what, 50 cents? I don't mind grabbing a little bit here today. I didn't yet. I was talking about it earlier and haven't quite. But, I mean, you can see on the chart, the location. It's got some pretty sick upside potential, even just to bang out a double, get yourself a free position, which is a strategy we'll be talking about a little later. So, yeah, really like this one. Glad you put that on my chart today. This other one is a Ethereum mining company.
And to clarify, like that's just a strategy. Like that company, while the chart does look good, if you do a fundamental dive, and that's what you have to do, unfortunately, when you're looking at stocks and companies and stuff, you have to do more of a fundamental dive into these companies. It's great to buy just off technicals, but if you're buying this stock here, for example, well, I know their debt financing is due by the end of 2021. I know that the majority of their miners are older generation and going to be unprofitable. Their saving grace is going to be an increase in Bitcoin's price to be able to cover that debt, because without more financing to be able to expand your operations, you're going to run out of burn, right?
Yeah.
So it's a race against time. So like that's what I've been saying for months, is that these larger firms are always going to be in a better place to survive, because they have capital to expand, which is at this level, that's the only way for mining companies to survive, is to continue to expand. And Bitfarms might be in trouble if they can't get that capital raised, right? So these long-term drivers it's definitely stuff that needs to be researched. You can't just take a trade off the technical analysis side of it. But Hut 8, same thing. They've recently made themselves more competitive. Previously, they were locked into a manufacturing exclusivity, so they could only source their equipment, their miners, from one company. In this case, it was Bitfury. Well, they're not even comparable for competition against the new WhatsApp miners or the new S19 Pros. So that was hurting that company just from that one deal, right? So again, understanding the fundamentals and underlying financial details of these companies is going to give you a lot more edge, or added edge, on top of the technicals, if this is something you guys are going to be looking at actually trading off of.
Yeah, and that's actually why I stay away from stocks for the most part, or I take them as tips from people I know who do their fundamental research, because I'm a crypto guy. I got into this stuff. I got into this, fintech, whatever you want to call it. I got into that through Bitcoin in 2017 in the spring, actually. Yep. After listening to Andreas Antonopoulos speak about it. So, shout out to him for education and teaching me. And, for 3 years, I've been grinding and learning about it, but I never got into the financials and all that stuff for stocks. And frankly, getting into those scanners, there's just so much out there that's just not my forte. However, on days like today, when I look at that huge breakout on Bitcoin on the high timeframes, and then I think back to the weed rally that we had in 2018, and I think to myself, okay, every single thing related to weed rallied hundreds of percents through the year and the two through up to legalization. It actually topped October 18th, I believe it was. Sell the news on legalization in Canada. So it was beautiful. And I don't think that there's any reason why a blockchain stock rally won't do the same. But it is important to, at this point especially, be planting those seeds in companies with strong fundamentals.
Yep.
So that in a few years, if that rally comes over the next few months and years, you're not sitting in the couple of duds that clearly had terrible financials.
Yeah, it's always good to hedge out your exposure from just the one underlying asset. I do think the space in most sectors move as a whole, and that's kind of why you saw that in the weed space. And crypto very similarly moves like that.
What was it, Kodak, that actually rebranded somehow, or I think it was like the weed thing, and I think it was Kodak stock rallied some ridiculous thing that year. Somebody watching might know what I'm talking about. But and it was just kind of like this DeFi thing where it's like, hey, did you know that this one's DeFi too now? And it's like, oh, and then it's scrambled to get in, right? And
that's kind of what the Bitcoin maximalists have been saying with Bitcoin. It's like, hey, bro, have you heard Bitcoin's DeFi? It's the original DeFi.
Yeah, so I mean, who knows? I think it might have even been because there was a bit of a blockchain rally during 2017 as well, obviously with Bitcoin going to new highs. But expect to see this kind of stuff where certain companies are, Bitcoin might be. I think Bitcoin and crypto and blockchain is going to be a hot sector in Stocktown. And today's the day that it reminded me, okay, go plant those seeds. Hut 8 is one that I've already got a free position in from banging out a double earlier this year. I'll be looking to do that again off the lows it just hit this week. And it broke out again today, so we'll pull that up in a sec. But show me what you got there with your wrapped BTC. We pulled this up on Friday.
Yeah, I quickly want to talk. Yeah, on Friday we were sitting about 155 million BTC on Ethereum. I made the bold claim that this was going to be going over $1 billion by the end of the year. It's already at 210 million. Bitcoin is DeFi, yeah, I guess, but are there applications and use cases for that? No, not really, other than transferring value. People have recognized that they want to use their Bitcoin on, for these DeFi products, so they have to migrate to Ethereum. That wasn't a real possibility until cross-chain swaps, interoperability between coins, synthetic coins, and all that stuff, security issuings. So we got wrapped Bitcoin here, we got Ren, we got P token somewhere down there. It's basically a synthetic coin issued by Tether. Not much traction going on there. The main two are kind of centralized around the wrapped Bitcoin and the Ren. I think these are going to grow substantially. It's all good for Bitcoin. This creates a albeit temporary lockup because people can move in and out of these assets, but it's just going to create less resistance on exchanges. It's less coin on exchanges. It's all good for price. And I think through these, there's going to be a lot of competition for this. But I think similarly what we've seen in stable coins, people will centralize one or two, and that's kind of what we're already seeing here. But Bitcoin decentralized layer 2 applications just never really took hold. We were promised Rootstock, never happened. So all that developer activity of layer 2 stuff has moved to Ethereum. Sure enough, liquidity is following it. So I think this is a trend. This is a trend to watch. There's not a lot of people talking about it, and it just creates more use case for Bitcoin, right? Like people can actually do something with it now. It's store value transferring through borders and all that good stuff. But people want to, more importantly, earn yields on the assets they hold. They want to put their money to work. And up until now, Bitcoin wasn't really doing that. So this is a huge development for the space. Not enough people are talking about it. And I think there's going to be a lot of cool use cases for this. And I think we're going to see a lot more people looking at this. And something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, and that really brings me back to the idea that, blockchain is going to change the world in more ways than the internet is something I've heard a number of times from, sources I consider credible. And I can't even really fathom that because, we've seen what the internet did to the world and how it's changed it. And it's now basically an integral part of almost everyone's life. And the idea that blockchain technology could do more than that is incredible. But, these kinds of second layer blockchain 2 and 3.0 type things that you're talking about coming along, I think we're going to see a lot of things right now basically that are invented based on the things that came in the first sort of cycle. Give you an example, like YouTube, right? Before the internet was around, the idea of YouTube was hard to imagine. And then as soon as there was enough bandwidth and enough storage and all that, and then YouTube came along. I still remember it was in high school and somebody mentioned it and I was like, what, YouTube? I love that band. They're like, no, YouTube, it's this new thing. And I was like, whoa, bro. And, it's obviously evolved now and people make livings just being on YouTube, like us right here, except for, so let's see how that stuff evolves. I think you're right, though. I think we're going to end up with a ton of Bitcoin wrapped up on the ETH network because there's more for it to do over there.
Yep. So one more chart I wanted to mention, we're talking about strategies again today. We talked about, identifying when and where breakouts are most likely to occur in our previous posts. We've always said, don't chase the breakout. That's some rookie mistakes right there. You want to be buying the retests. So where, Ethereum's had a really great move here. We've moved up to 0.3. Where do you enter next? Well, Wyckoff theory says the former highs get tested. So we're taking a close look here at that 0.276 level. If we do see positive price action around here, I think that'd be a really great spot to re-enter the market. It's going to be a super airtight invalidation point right below like 0.26 or something. But if it supports here, we're going to be looking for get the moon chart here. We'll be looking for expansion, probably up to here on this level right there. You can see, oopsies. Yeah, right there. So as you can see, this is just a big, we're on the 3-day, it's also a weekly level, but basically that 0.4 around here. That's the inevitable target of this true range expansion here. So we'll be keeping a close eye there. You may as well just set some alarms. You don't have to look at then.
Yeah, and the GAN 50/50 level is actually 0.078, which is way up at that next pivot, basically a 0.08. And that's set for October 15th, if you believe in vibrational signatures. That is still in play. Doesn't always come through, but it's a spooky thing. Happens more often than I would have thought.
It's something I've never looked into myself, so I can't give you much comment there.
I'm gonna pull it up just so I don't sound too crazy. So this is right here. It's a chart we looked at last week, and we will continue to look at probably once a week for the next few months because it's a high time frame one. It's going to take a long time to play out. But the GAN stuff is basically the vibrational signature of the universe, and humans are subject to that. Therefore, assets, which are a reflection of human behavior, are also subject to that. And it's a pretty far out theory. But if you read and you can Google this, read the interview between Wyckoff and GAN. It's posted, just Google it. I think it's an unsecured site. So I click on it, it's like unsecured. I'm like, oh no. But I haven't been hacked yet. I read it last year a few times and again last month. But it's like 3 pages. It's a really interesting interview. I think I'll leave it at that. Just highly recommend you check that out. Okay. And this kind of a move seems ridiculous, but we've already seen it quite a few times. And like even just in the last month. And I'll show you the one example of that we just saw was in Atom, which is a really solid thread on our Twitter that I'm pretty proud of. I actually just posted it yesterday because, right from the bottom of this trend, confirmation here of bullish market structure off divergence, we've basically just been tracking this thing, and it just smacked this GAN level a little early, but you can see it did get some action on the circle. The exact date was meant to be July 23rd. But when you're looking at moonshot ideas like this, where it's like, hey, we're going to retrace 50% in half the time, I mean, that's still pretty sick. Let's call it a couple of days off and a couple of pips high, and that kind of thing. So it's a bit, for me, I use it more of a loose analysis. And as you can see here, Atom has come right back in to test this breakout point. So just to retouch on your point there on the ETH BTC chart, the idea of buying the retest, and we talked about this last week, this thing had already started moving by Friday, and I just thought, well, I'm already long on it, but would I ever say to someone just because I'm super bullish on that October level that I talked about, oh yeah, buy now? No, because it's probably not going to be a straight shot up there. In fact, I could almost guarantee it. As far as probabilities go, it's insanely slim. That it's just not the way markets work. Some people take profits, some people shake out, like whatever. It's zigzags, right? So there is a retest level here, and I will absolutely be looking to hunt along on it. Not necessarily setting a bid, placing, catching daggers kind of thing, but it's these levels that I watch for retests and flips, and the same goes for Bitcoin. If we pull up, let's say this chart here, we got a strong breakout of the level. I don't really like that one for horizontals. Got a strong breakout of this level. There's no real reason on the lower time frames for me to chase it, but it makes a lot of sense to me that at some point, either this week, next month, later this year, we're going to get a retest of this break level at 10K. To just come up and break through 10K and never come back is possible. Seems improbable to me. And when that day comes, I'll be looking for that setup. So buying those retests, and then a little later today, I think you got something ready to go there, so I want to pull your chart up. But later today, we're going to go through some altcoin charts and talk about, how could a profitable trader, somebody who wants to be a profitable trader, be behaving on a day like today? Because today, is a day full of emotion for a lot of people. They've been rallying crazy. I'll pull up an example here because this is one that's been on a lot of people's radar in our trading pit. I mean, I think sadly a lot of people got caught up in this move, and they're like, well, we're probably heading to 400 sats, so I'm just going to hold it. All right, old pivot low here. Maybe even already 2x their money, but they're thinking, fuck it, I'm going to take it up here. It might hit that, but it's not going to be a straight shot, almost certainly. I mean, it could. Syscoin's done it. I mean, that happens. But you may have to swallow a 50% drawdown. And
Ooh.
as ugly as today looks, it's really just right back to the median, right? It's kind of like right back to the average. We're just nice little uptrend channel. We got a little ahead of ourselves. Yeah, we'll reel it back in. Now, if I never took any profits and I was in this move, I'm going to have a really hard time buying this dip because all I see is a 40% drop in my bag from the high. What is it? Actually, I didn't measure it. Let's see. 48. So,
creates a lot of biases.
If you don't take profits, it's hard to buy dips. And that's a lesson that I learned the hard way through, much of 2018, where there'd be some of these little shit rallies and I'd be like, okay, the bottom's in, we're going. And, it wasn't there. So I've gotten really good at being light on my feet. My trading plan suits my tolerance for risk. I don't like to go to sleep and not know what's going on. I like to have a pretty strong control of my bags. So I actually, fortunately, I've been playing very lightly in alts because I just don't trust that, they're going to be a straight shot. So, for example, Ambrosis. I mean, sick setup. For me, the trade came in back in May. We're coming up. Another setup came up here in early July. But when it gets up here, we're up in this fib extension. We're up like 200, 300%. That's my take profit. And, I mean, naturally, it smacked here, and I can be like, oh, that's so dope. But I took some risk because we were in a pretty friggin' bullish little window there, and it could have just kept going, could have just, absolutely nuked up. But I was comfortable with that risk, and then I figure I'm on to the next one. I don't fall in love with it. I don't care if it's 1 mil market cap and it could go 100x. Like, I'm off to the next one. And now in this case, it's, well, lucky me because I can start hunting for that again. So a bit of that conversation today around strategy. I don't have the perfect strategy. It's great for me. Some people who bought through here are probably just going to chill out and hold it. And they might be able to call me next year and it's up here and I'm not back in, because often that happens to me. I don't get back into things after I take my initial trade. And it might go up to 1,300 sats. And they'll say, hey, I got my 13x. How's your bag? And that's cool. So it's not about, do it my way. But I want to have that discussion throughout today's show, because it's just a day that a lot of people are reflecting on their strategies, right? Because today's the day a lot of people talk about what they sold at the top, and everybody else is talking about, buying dips and where do you fit in.
That's crazy and that's just, that's a perfect example of, euphoria one day and you're buying the noose the next day.
Despair, yeah.
Yeah, that's what that chart says right there.
I mean, this is a savage dump. I mean, this is not a healthy retrace. This just looks like a pump and dump. It's kind of crazy.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And it's sad because I know a lot of people in the trading pit are big on this one. Again,
there's nothing wrong with Ren too. Like the GitHub is super active. There a lot of dexes are using that stuff. Like I said, they're the number 2 on the synthetic BTC swap there.
Well, here's Ren, and Ren looks a lot healthier, right? There's this is a longer, stronger uptrend. I mean, it really speaks to what you're talking about. Some actual usage, some adoption, some pretty strong-handed speculators that are coming in.
Oh, that other chart, that was that Mithril.
That was Ambrosis. Yeah, that was Ambrosis.
That real shitcoin.
Yeah, there's a proper shitcoin. I mean, it's got some cool shit going on too, but it's not Ren. And but like this looks healthy. We were putting this out on our Twitter recently around just spotting some of the early signs. There's actually this trend line resistance that got me thinking. Okay, this thing, like, I had missed it. I had a 600 order right around here, and it didn't fill. Like, I looked at that week. I was like, I should buy some at 600, and I never did. So, sad face me, whatever. And I was watching it from the sidelines, and I did see that downtrend resistance. I thought, okay, let's keep an eye on this. And it was, I'm going to highlight this because I think this is an important thing for someone who doesn't want to just hold for 3 years, go 10x, drop 50%, go 12x, drop 50%. Like, it's a stressful way to do it. If you want to do that, cool. But if you want to learn a little bit about some swing trades, this was perfect. We had confirmed bearish market structure right here, right? So that's the up, up, and then the fail level, and then it failed pretty hard. But here's what I learned in the last, even honestly, like 6 months, like learned to a point where I actually use it, is that after this fail, that day, I mean, this is a 2 days of candle, right? So this 2 days you're staring at it going, what if, it never comes back? But without fail, I can just draw these, I shouldn't say without fail, but almost all the time, you draw up this short RLZ. So you go to the high, you go down to that initial fail pivot low, and price will bounce up into this short RLZ. And if it's really bearish, it'll usually at least get this 382, which is like the inverse of the pump chaser fib, right? But oftentimes, especially after a really strong rally, you can get these sick bounces up, and that's your exit. Like, it just gives me, it's like, okay, we've confirmed bear. I can get out here, and since it's a short and I want to call it a trade, I can actually have a buy stop here. So I'm risking, sure, I might get left behind. I gotta buy my bag back at a higher price, but because I'm getting out up in this short RLZ, that risk window is very small. And if I am wrong, and it has happened where, you know, you get out and it just looks like this, but it just chills down here, maybe it was a pennant and it breaks out, or you're just buying it back. In this case, maybe sweet spot exit, I'm buying it back 7% up. However, oftentimes you get this fail after a huge move like that, resistance, blah, blah, blah. It does come down, and now, sweet spot, I just increased my bag by 30%. Or if I buy that support, increased it by 31. Or if we trend down for a bit while Bitcoin goes to 12K, I increased it by 50%. Like, you know, so playing both sides of the market is again, talking strategies. Some people want to just accumulate, build their base. This, to me, screamed, take a break. So had to feature, I wanted to feature that today because, you know, sometimes you get a little flack for being a bear. And people say, "Oh man, why you gotta rain on my bags, bro? Like, Ren's the future," and I can't argue with that. I like Ren's a dope project. I like it. Got a lot of buddies that are balls deep, and they haven't sold, right? So I love that. But as a trader, I look and I just say, "Oh, bearish market structure. Let's get that throwback." Wow, and it just happened that, you know, Bitcoin helped it along today.
TA wins again. I saw a comment in our chat there. Someone wants to take a look at the OMG USD pair.
All
So
right,
I
you got
took
it
the
up there?
liberty, quickly throwing up a chart there on the 3-day. You know, again, nothing special here because you don't need anything special to read these markets. Former resistance broke up, retested it, held. You know, now basically, if we're going to form another higher low, we need to hold around 1.55 right here. If this is the real line in the sand, if this goes this range right here, there's probably significant downside coming for this market. But as long as this level holds here, it looks fine. He targets, probably the range high right around here. And I love using line charts just to identify levels. Obviously, if you're looking at candlesticks, it's going to give you a little bit more clear picture into like the actual price action.
Yeah, like the wicks can tell a story sometimes. Yeah,
exactly.
But man, I gotta say, I love your line charts. They look so clean in comparison to what I just had up there with the moving averages and the levels and the lines. This is just a clean look, and that's it's XRP doing live action.
Live action, XRP moving on up here.
If it's
new
doing
highs,
that,
actually.
Oh no!
XRP.
If we're doing that thing, it talked. We were on a lot this weekend talking about XRP face ripping, and didn't actually get the entry that I wanted. So let's see how moon did it just go? Pull it up. Let's do this.
22 cents. Pull it over here.
Oh dear. Oh no! And look at that dip today too. Sick throwback right to that level.
Yeah. So
let's get into it.
I don't know why I'm on a 3-hour chart. Close to this shit too. Yeah, like this is a very easy chart to read right here, right? Like how do we not test this daily resistance? 24 cents around there. This entire block, like it's got a magnet on here.
They do actually,
yeah. Yeah, I'd imagine this block right here is going to be the main test there. 23.5 at the 24 cents. If that goes, you're looking at 26 cents. Former resistance, right? Support. got broken through, didn't even retest it. So this would be your second target up here, right around here. So probably put an alarm here at the bottom of the low. I'd say if you're long in today's candle, you're pretty safe just to set an alarm stop loss at the bottom of that candle. It's pretty strong uptick there. And yeah, like I said, initial target is probably around 24 cents. Depending on what happens there, who knows? Ripple hit $3 at one point. It's one of those markets that the majors have been lagging.
You're giving me FOMO, bro. Chill out with all that $3 talk. But look at this. I'm just thinking about this pump chaser fib, and this, we were looking at this on the weekend in our futures trading, hangout we had, and I saw this on the higher time frame, and I thought, okay, that's pretty nasty. I kind of wish I, was doing my own analysis here, because this is really how I like to get in on an asset. If I think it's in a strong uptrend, you get that 382, that 0.5 retest. And this thing was perfect. I mean, ping, ping, drop through, ping, no stop loss if I had it parked here, whatever. Shoulda, woulda, coulda. But then zooming in to our sort of what we had on the weekend. And again, this stuff is so easy to chart in retrospect, so I'm not going to sit here and be like, I should always see this in live. But I think each time I catch it after, it gives me it just strengthens my ability to spot it during as well. And if you're watching, you're going to already see what I'm looking at here. Really, and this was today, right? This was the dip this morning, right into that zone. Got to be quick. It was a snap play. And even the other strategy we were using on the weekend is just buying these throwbacks. So, breaking to new highs. Oh no, I missed it. I don't know how to manage my risk here because the gap's too big. Okay, well, I'm just going to set my bid right here. And, it satisfied that as well. Just smacked into it. Didn't hit the stop. And we're off. So something to keep an eye on. This morning, frankly, I was a little starstruck. I was staring at Bitcoin, looking at a few other things, repairing a whole bunch of my alt charts that just got destroyed and have to kind of restart them. And so I wasn't too heavy into, staring at my futures charts. But this is a sick little play here. I like this a lot. And it takes a lot of discipline to step in here when you see these kind of tectonic plates shifting, like Bitcoin blasting off and moving up. And I'll be honest, it's, I had a good week last week, so I wasn't like hungry rushing in, for better or worse. I think you should stay hungry. But in this case, I was like, I'm just going to enjoy, do some content stuff. And I really like this level though. And let's see, was that just XRP? Or is it a lot of these majors that are catching hot bounces right now?
Checking, yeah, I know we've been keeping an eye on LTC and EOS. Probably be speaking about gold at some point here too.
Yeah, the one thing that I pulled up this morning was this Bitcoin XRP chart, and I just thought, okay, wrecked, don't want it right now. I'm fairly heavy Bitcoin right now, and not in a rush on day one to be buying up dips.
Majors moving.
I'm all for I'm all for buy the dip, and I'm all for scaling in on downside, and I think that's definitely the right idea. But if Bitcoin just broke out, like we've talked about from this higher time frame structure, I don't know if this is the day I want to be buying all the dips. I think the first round of that kind of stuff often will get squeezed as well. So we'll see how that ages. But for now, let's pull up some of the majors you're seeing as you're talking.
Yeah, ETH, LTC, all popping up here. I'll drag it over.
Yeah, violent down tends to result in a pretty strong bounce, and then it's the retest after that bounce. And I'll show you on the Bitcoin chart later. Really good example of that from the March lows. It's the retest after that initial bounce up, impulse up, that to me is like the real truth teller.
Yeah, like LTC, no real resistance up until $56, $63. Again, we've just had a consolidation period here, for the past few months, like similar to what we've seen with Bitcoin and Ethereum, or any market. Once you have a long consolidation period and you get the move through it, you're going to have follow through on this. So I definitely see, Ethereum returning. This is a really good level up here. And this is just a perp chart, so there's not as much data on it. But yeah, you can see that level right there, $62, $63. I think that's where this is headed. Let's see where we are in terms of a percentage move. Still another 15% off there. And if you're looking for a relatively safe entry on a retest after this impulse, probably gonna be looking at $49, 49 spot 5. Did I see this reversing immediately? Probably not.
No, and that kind of goes back to conversation we were having in the trading pit earlier, that it feels a little late to long some of these and a little early to short.
Yeah.
And that's okay. At this point, I may have to sit on my hands for a day or two, and I will feel immense FOMO because I like making money and I want to be long on Bitcoin from 98 last night. So, we're all human there, but I'm not going to remedy that feeling by breaking my trading plan. And I guess I'm beating a dead horse today on that note, but maybe just projecting some of what I'm dealing with today, because it is very hard to stay disciplined, and it's very hard, especially if you're not in the perfect position for whatever big move is happening. So LTC looks like it's bullish. Do you see a trade on it at this price?
No. Yeah, if you're not already in it, probably not. I'd be waiting for this retest here, or for weakness up at $63. That's just me though, right? 3-day, 1 day. If you want to do intraday trading on this stuff, scroll down.
Ooh, a pump.
56.
Yeah, no, this morning a lot of these put in that nice dip, throwbacks to previous breakout levels. It was a snipe entry. A lot of them came in though.
Yeah, I like these things just move in tandem together, these majors, and this is all just part of the liquidity cycle, right?
Yeah, and I'm gonna flip back here real quick because I also want to make sure everyone, we keep in mind on what this breakout on Bitcoin really means for the space, for crypto as a whole, because altcoin market cap is one I've been watching. Now, altcoins, in many cases, are getting decimated today versus Bitcoin because people are selling them off. They want to jump on board, getting squeezed out. Algos are dumping, shifting, like you say, the liquidity back into Bitcoin. But we are breaking out of a very long downtrend. And what's good for Bitcoin, what's good for crypto, ultimately, because of that liquidity cycle, will be good for alts at some point. And we are now testing the February highs on altcoin market cap. We could probably chart this on total market cap at this point, but 113 billion on alts. And as this continues to break up, there's going to be that yo-yo kind of sloshing of capital, and alts will catch their rally. If you haven't been around, just remember, they die every so often, and they stay dead for a while, and they go absolutely bananas like we've seen over the last few weeks, hundreds of percents. And they'll be back. Nothing's changed. So let's get into some shitcoins, because I think there's a few charts out there. There's actually one today that I bought. Can't even call this one a shitcoin. It's pretty sweet exchange, and they've built something special, and this chart really speaks to value, in my opinion. But let's just take a look at it. So FTT is the FTX token, and it's done pretty well from inception here in February 2020. Had a really good run through the spring. In fact, look at this, March 13th, it was at like absolute highs. So the entire world was tanking. I didn't even realize that. That was the high for FTT. And that's almost, just not quite, but almost 2x the current price versus Bitcoin. And so I pulled this up this morning and I noticed, okay, it's just been pretty boring, consolidating. And right down in this RLZ. And then this morning, had this nice big breakout on volume after, you can see, for quite a while, not too much interest. And then just the other day, and then again this morning, you see this volume starting to roll in, along with, how am I going to get that? Okay, there we go. Along with this nice, this was actually a 12-hour when I put that on there. Let's go look. So you get this nice where the MACD is actually, in other words, the move down is slowing, so the MACD are getting closer together, so the histogram is shrinking, and we're seeing bullish divergence. Price making lower lows, and MACD making higher lows, and then it flipped bull, confirming it this morning on this move up. And look at this throwback, and I'm really happy about that. Set some bids here today. So this is the one dip I bought today, and I don't see this the same way as I see other dips, right? Because this one has been putting in its work, right? It's been earning its right to move up, shifting from the weak hands to the strong hands, the people that are chasing the rallies to the people that are just going to say, I'm going to hold this thing. And it's put in that base. And here it broke out, and I got my fill. Now, let me get you an example of the maybe opposite. I'm going to pick on Myth here just because it's the one that comes to mind. This one has enjoyed a rally, right? So since May, while FTT, for example, was sitting there being boring and just kind of parked, Mithril's been enjoying a rally. There's a lot of what you call weaker-handed individuals here that were in for the rally, chasing that. They're going to take some time to shake out. So yes, there is a level here. This just doesn't look as ready. You get a pump like that, it takes time to shake out, consolidate, and we see that everywhere. I'll give you an example again. TNT, crazy pump and dump. I mean, look at this thing. It's not ready to go anywhere yet. In fact, today it dumped some more. AMB, these are just ones off the top of my head that come to mind, like huge rallies up. It's going to take some time. I don't see this going to new highs, in the next week. So I am looking, when it's all volatile right now, I'm looking for coins that have been quiet for a while. Sadly, H-bar broke down. I got stopped out. That's the one big old stop loss that hit yesterday, and it is what it is. That's okay. But this one too has been consolidating, waiting. It's not filled up like it was over here where it took that time, right? So when I say things like Mithril, Ambrosis, and there's a whole bunch of them that have been rallying, going to take some time to get back to their highs. Well, this is an example right here. This thing absolutely ripped some more faces on exhaustion, and look how long it's just, it does take time.
Good things take time.
Yeah, and we're seeing that in DeFi. Super sad face. I'm going to pull up my BNT misfire here. But they're rolling over, right? These things have been, pile in for the last little while. And, on a high time frame, I'm less inclined to say that these won't continue because these things have been just so insanely strong. And a lot of it is based on real use cases. I know Kyber's getting a ton of action over there. Let me get another one. BNT. I was a little perplexed by this. I did not know this was DeFi. Still don't
Everything's DeFi now, bro.
Yeah, I still don't know that it is, to be honest, but I'm not going to say it isn't because I haven't looked it up. But this is, this is the kind of thing where, like, there's a dip here, and you can take a shot. I bet that's actually a pump chaser fib. Let's pull it up. Yeah, so I mean, hey, we're into the 382s. I mean, there's definitely some trades to be had here. So I'm not going to say we have to come and roll over completely. A lot of snipers make a lot of money by buying these initial, 382 dips in a strong market. So let me just preface this by saying that. However, this is actually one I just didn't understand why it's doing so well. I know Bancor's been around a while. They raised a ton of money, didn't they? Something ridiculous.
Yeah, they did.
Anyways, this is what I'm talking about. Same thing we talked about earlier on Ren. And I only pulled it up because I had this on my chart. I didn't trade it. I was talking to Nick in the week, and I said, I think I'm going to short BNT. They go, yeah. I was like, yeah, but not here. I'm going to wait till it bounces up. Well, that came and went when I was sleeping, no doubt. 8 a.m. So I wasn't necessarily sleeping, but
true scam wick.
I was, but that's the thing. This happens so often, and I want to show this. I'm not even going to say like, oh, look at me, I'm in this short. I didn't get into it. It's my own freaking setup. But I had it, and I was looking at it, and it's still there for educational purposes. We got beautiful divergence came in, right, where the MACD is almost non-existent here on the high that came in. So it's just like the weakest momentum. You could just see the momentum dying off here. And then it broke the lows right here. Okay, so that's your confirmation of bearish market structure. And I could chase. A lot of people did, dumping bags, shorting, because it is marginable on Binance. But the strategy that I have, the setup that I've kind of been refining over the last while is, okay, so wait for that initial fail, draw up that fib, and, obviously on this daily close it was here. So my asks are here. Oh no, the next day it went down, okay, move my ask down a bit. Next day went down some more, okay, move my ask down a bit. I mean, look at this thing. Smack, short, squeeze, up into that, and it doesn't happen all the time, but when it does, you got the 6 spot. It's often, a pretty quick snapper entry. And it happened on BNT, what is it, yesterday. So just another example of a trade setup that I look for. So you got the divergence, you got the structure fail, then wait for your location, and if it fires, you're stuck in a nice short position that obviously, like we said, this could be the 382 tap and go, and then you get stopped out. Or we could be going down to some RLZs, in which case you're made. I mean, if that's the case that this stuff rolls over for a little bit, because let's be honest, this thing might have gone a little too far, a little too fast. I don't think fundamentally anything changed between that low and this high. If we're getting down to this sweet spot, oh my gosh, you got yourself a sick trade. So one example of how I like to find, and this works to the long side too, obviously it's a lot more fun, but the market will give you what you get, and you got to find out how you can make money out of the moves. So quick one I wanted to share on BNT today: 3-step setup, divergence, structure
Multiple
fail,
points of confluence.
location. Yeah, and it's not it's not a one-off. This happened, and I think I've showed it on here before. I mean, this happened on the Bitcoin top, exactly the same thing, right? I'm just because we're talking about it, I'm going to do it real quick. We had, is this the 20K? No, that's not even it. Let's go to the 20K top. Oh, look, I already had it written up. That saves us time. Because I've had this conversation before, clearly. But,
preparation.
Same thing, right? You had the lower highs of the MACD as we were coming in. Now, I didn't know this setup back then. I just draw it up in retrospect out of interest. I was like, oh, look at that. Would have worked. But this is one I like to look for. And sure enough, I mean, this was a month. So this is a little longer to wait through. But bing, right here, sweetest entry. And as you can see, aged pretty well. If you trailed that thing down with the high pivots, you probably held it till 6K, something like that. Crazy. All right, enough about that short setup. Frankly, I hate shorting anything crypto, but sometimes the chart gives you something and you just got to take it. The market's going to do what it wants.
I'm a trader, not a community member.
So I try to be, yeah. I've been a community member before. It doesn't pay the rent.
No.
What do you got up on your chart there? I see some.
This was just taking a quick look at the DeFi. We're talking about the DeFi space.
Yeah.
DeFi perp, down 25%. This is just a combination of a lot of DeFi products, comp, balancer, synthetics, Kyber networks in there, a whole bunch. Anyways, like you said, just there's real use case here, which can not a lot of other coins can claim. So are these buy the dips? Probably. You can see right here, this is a form of resistance, little gap that never really got tested. Right about there. You can see like this whole move right here, sprung from here, this retest right there. So seeing this support makes sense here. Now you're going to be looking for possibly a retest of like the range resistance up here or something. So whoop, we'll see what happens here. That could paint a terrible, just god-awful head and shoulders. Left shoulder here, right head, right shoulder there. So we'll be keeping an eye on that. But across the board, DeFi space, I think we took a look at it. It has about 135,000 users right now, so it's still pretty small. But for the time being, same thing with Ampleforth, right? Like, wow, what a move on this thing with the rebalancings. I think it's every hour or something. This is just a perp, but where's this headed? Probably back to retest these lows here if it gets rejected up here.
Yeah, Ampleforth is an interesting one. That's a whole world of its own with the geyser and the rebalancing. It's pretty cool. I find it fascinating. I'm not invested in it or don't have any, but buddies are keeping me up to speed on it, and it sounds pretty sweet. But it's more than just trading the token. You really want to be applying for those geysers. They basically airdrop you a bunch of stuff or something, and then big sales coming through on Uniswap. It's kind of wild. But you made me think of something real quick. We are getting close to the top of the hour, so we will wrap in the next little bit. But real quick, I want to go back to sort of the idea around buy the dip. Okay, now I get a little cringy sometimes when people see prices going down. This is Bitcoin March drop. I'm just going to use it as an example because I actually did use it here. I see it all the time, but I rarely trade it thus far. Now, people come up and they say, oh, well, Bitcoin's 8,600. It's so cheap. And I'm like, well, okay, compared to what? And they're like, well, last week it was 98. And it's like, okay. But the best example probably of this, a friend of mine, sad face, He's
It's recency bias.
well, it's this. Okay, here's ISOL. Here's a weed stock. Speaking of
Oh
weed stocks
no.
earlier, yeah, and he was in this. Now, look, he made a killing in weed stocks. So no hate. He's he smoked it, but he got addicted to his own craft and he started buying the dips on this thing. And he doesn't look at charts, right? He's just sort of a fundamentals guy, and he's like, it's worth X, so it's down here's cheap. Well, it kept going down, and he averaged down a bit, averaged down a bit, averaged down a bit. And right around when we talked about this, I was, learning all this stuff, and during the bear market, spending, hitting the books, so to speak. And it was this fail around $1, and I actually bought some. I was like, okay, I'm going to buy this support, and if it fails, I'm out. And I remember I sold here, and it rallied the next week, and I was like, crap. But I was like, whatever, patience, not paying attention to stocks that much, anyways. And then, look at this thing, like 6 cents. What the fuck, right? I mean, so how do you buy the dip in a sensible way? Because I don't really care if something's cheaper than it was yesterday. I just want to know it's headed in the right direction. This obviously downtrend. So, nobody's buying ISOL, and that wasn't really the point. The point is, for Bitcoin or any alts right now, this is how I would like to buy the dip. And I'm going to share with you right now. And it's the same old thing I always do, my fibs, right? Got my fibs. But let me show you this off the Bitcoin bottom, because this was a sick and nasty dip. I mean, it was like the dip possibly of a lifetime, because if this is the bottom and we're going to head to new highs and this is the new paradigm, like what a dip. So how do I buy this though? Because on the day of, it just kept going. It actually went even a little further than I thought, and I kind of saw potential for 4,200 based on previous breakout levels. I mean, it definitely wasn't out of the question. Didn't expect it to get there, to be honest, but it did, and it even went further. So how did I buy this dip? Well, get the fib going. And we just saw this on BNT because it works the other way as well. So you get that initial dump down, and then you follow it up with the fib. Okay, you follow it up. Now, I could have followed it up to here. I'm going to get this magnet off. Could have followed it up to here, which I did, and then it didn't come down into my RLZ, so whatever. Then I followed it up to this next high here. Didn't come down to my RLZ. I followed it up to this next one here, and then it did come down, and it smacked that sweet spot. Same thing. Like, this stuff is not rocket science. It happens all the time. And so when I told someone, I just bought, I think it was 44.75 or something, and they're like, no, that's bullshit, bro. Why would you buy that? Because it's these, and this is what I'm talking about. So we're going to get these dips today in alts. We're probably going to get some kind of big impulse spring back, because it'll be the buyback, and then there'll be FOMO back in, people that just sold going, oh my God, I'm an idiot. And then it'll come back down. And if it succeeds those retests, those are the dips that I'm buying. I've put that as concisely as possible, and I want to put an example in an altcoin chart. So let's go altcoins. I think that might be the one I closed. Yeah, it is. Okay, let me pull the altcoin chart up right quick. Because I would like to buy some dips and alts. I think, I don't think just because Bitcoin broke out today that they're done. And if there is going to be a dip, let's see. Give me an altcoin. Somebody hit me with some alts. Yeah, Miguel Teixeira, we did talk about FTT earlier in the stream, and I do like it as a longer-term play. I think FTX is doing big things. I think they have big backing, and I think they're moving fast. Fundamentally, I think they're very strong, and their token reflects demand based on usage of the exchange. And I don't even know if we've seen the end of its use cases. I imagine they'll develop something.
Probably not.
They'll probably find a way to do that. I mean, BNB really blew up in that sense. There's no good reason I can think of that FTX won't do the same. So if you're asking my opinion on it, fundamentally, I do think it is a safer longer-term play. I think the safest is probably, Bitcoin and Ethereum. But FTT tickles me in more ways than one. So I did get some today on this dip. But somebody hit me with an altcoin quick, because I really want to demo this dip buying. And I'm going to need some help here on an altcoin. So somebody hit me up quick, or I'm going to find random shitcoin. Okay, actually.
Random shitcoin number 2 in the list here.
Okay, let's go Aeon, because it's my favorite shitcoin. It's not even a shitcoin. I think it's a great coin, but it's my favorite. Now.
It's a colorful chart.
Yeah, it's really, I'm like, oh, this is a little bit marked up, actually. It's not going to work as well. But let's see. So we've got this move, And oh, I'm scared to delete all my ink here. Let me just go copy this, whatever. It's a quick copy. Now, I can pull this up. I don't even know if this will be the best example, but things that happen live. Well, not sure if back on YouTube, but pretty sure, guys, that is unreal. We are going to wrap up here in a few, so I don't know that I'll bring Nick back in, but this is that was actually a power outage. My entire block. I called my landlord. He's like, "No, I'm not doing anything. I think the whole block just went out." So, LOL, can't make this shit up. But I do want to talk real quick about what I was going to talk about because it was kind of a culminating point that I wanted to get to because it is what we need to be thinking about, in my opinion, during this dip in alts. If it is just a dip, this is how I'm going to buy it. Okay, so you get that nice move up here. And it's that first impulse is going to happen almost every time, right? And a lot of times, okay, don't need the magnet. A lot of times it is a first impulse up and then just fails and keeps going. So it's really this RLZ off of that move that I want to see if that holds up, and that's the real true spot. Now you can snipe it like I did with Bitcoin because I was just like, that was such an epic dump. I think this really is the bottom, and either way, it's a good DCA. You know, you can just snipe it, or you know, you can look for structure down there and see. But typically, these kinds of throwback quick ones, they do come fairly fast. Now we had some asks here. Okay, let's check out Mana. I didn't even look at Mana yet since today's move. Although I know it got its like Samsung pump last week. Yeah. So, okay, that's a pretty gnarly move. Right back down to the lows. Probably through an 88.6 even off this most recent rally. Let's see. I am live. So say hi if you guys are hearing me, and if you're still here, shout out to y'all because you got patience. Frankly, I wouldn't have blamed you if you had left there. Those little stripy bars are really weird to look at and stressful. I think I'm going to get that power source. You can kind of like plug it in and it's like a backup. So if your power cuts, your computer stays on. I should probably do for one of those. Add it to the list of things. Now, this is a pretty gnarly dump. Okay, so do I want to buy this just blindly? Well, depending on my strategy. Me personally, no. So how am I going to do this? Well, over the next couple of days, probably going to see a move back up here. Everyone will say, it was just a dip. Did you buy it? And then it will likely fail again, and it'll be that test that will tell me, you know, that test will be my entry. Because then I know the full extent of this move down. I see the impulse up, and I can catch it. So let's just say price in the next couple of days, you know, Bitcoin chills out, consolidates, keeps going, who knows. But let's say we move up. So now I'm going to go up. I'm going to draw my fib to that pivot high. Now I've got my entry area painted. And because a lot of people are selling that first bounce because they're pissed they didn't get out up here and up here and up here, they're saying, okay, I'm trapped. I'm going to sell on this bounce. So you're going to probably get a lot of resistance as some of these alts come back up to range. Then it'll be back down. And if we are a bull, it'll be here that I want to be buying. So if you're interested in this, if you want to try it out, I mean, you don't have to just go and do it. Paper trade it, watch it, check it out. I'll be talking about it on Wednesday and Friday to see what kinds of bounces like that come in. But it's those kinds of moves, if I'm buying dips instead of catching knives, give me a little bit more safety in that regard. Okay, so let's see One other example on Ren. Yeah, good idea, because I was talking about this one earlier. So as you can see, Ren has been trending down after a really nice, strong, and long uptrend, really from February, kind of started off early March. So as this comes down, I can buy my whole bag back here if I was trading it and lost it up there, left it up there, took profit. But personally, I'd rather try to catch that, move down, draw the fib as it comes up, draw the fib as it comes up. So let's say that's the move up we get in the next few days. Well, that would be pretty sweet because look at that. Actually, realistically, it would probably come back up here to previous pivot lows. So let's just say it does come back up here. I draw this fib and I catch that move. Okay, so here's the dip because it should come down and likely test these as people, continue to take their profits or, get out of a trap position. I'm trapped. As soon as it bounces, I'm getting the hell out. Okay, I'm getting the hell out. Or at least, people are getting out through this maybe, but it's the overpowering of the bears right here as we hit that pivot. And then it's this dip where I'm going to really find out, did we stop or are we just heading down some more? Excuse me, monster yawn. So that's kind of my way of buying the dip. Buying the dip with fibs. Should make a little quick video on that so it doesn't get lost in the stream because I like it as a strategy. As you can see, it worked really well on the Bitcoin bottom, and if there's going to be dips to buy, that's usually how they come through. And it's the same with the tops too, right? Had the breakdown, draw that fib up, got the squeeze right up in there, and then crapped out. So I'm looking to do that the other way, and that's it. That's kind of all I wanted to wrap up with today, guys. So sorry I couldn't have Nick here to say goodbye with us. He'll be back with us on Wednesday. He's going to be talking about his newsletter that he wrote up today, and he'll be sharing it and featuring it on Wednesday's cast. If you guys have any ideas, feedback, things you'd like to see, check us out in the Telegram Trading Pit. The link is in the description. And if you like this video and you appreciate what we're doing here, give us a like, throw us a sub, hit us with the bell so you know when we're going live. And for those that are interested, that is Monday, Wednesday, Friday at the market close. That's 4 p.m. Eastern Time, New York Hill Zone. So hit us up on Twitter at Hxro Labs or in the Telegram Trading Pit. Until next time, have a wonderful day. Always play from a position of strength.